Good morning, everyone. My name is Jason. This is my friend Evan, who I've known for 15 years. He is 61 years old. And today we're just doing an interview just to get some idea of what it's like to move from young adulthood to middle adulthood. And I just have a few questions for him to answer, and hopefully we can all learn something from this. How you doing?
I'm good.
Good to see you.
You too.
Okay. So my first question for you is, describe a change you've experienced between now and the time that you were young, and let's go with job and career, let's say.
Okay. So I had a major career change about 17 years ago. I had spent 30 years roughly in the hospitality industry. The last 15 of those 30 years was in management and upper management positions. I found at the end of that tenure, I got really burned out on managing. So a friend of mine who was working for an industrial product distribution company as a government contractor said, hey, we need somebody to do the bookkeeping. So I thought, okay, I've been working with budgets, and even though I don't have an accounting degree, I went and applied for the job, and the woman, the owner of the company, interviewed me. Didn't bother looking at my resume to find out that I've never taken an accounting class because I'm an English major, but hired me anyways. And she was probably the best trainer I've ever had and taught me how to do all the accounting for the company. So after I worked for her for about 2 years, I mentioned one day I'd never taken an accounting class, and she was totally shocked, but I guess I was doing a good job because she was happy with it.
Now, how old were you when you made this transition?
42, 3.
Okay. Yep. So prior to that, you had worked in hospitality like when you were in your 30s, or even earlier?
Well, I started like in my teenage years.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So, but doing that job doing the accounting, that eventually evolved into handling the government contracting because the friend I worked with retired.
Right.
And then it evolved into doing pretty much everything. And when my boss retired in 2018, I bought the company from her.
Okay.
So I went a major transition from being a food and beverage director to owning an industrial product distribution company.
Yeah. Totally different.
Totally unrelated.
Yeah.
And neither one of the jobs have anything to do with my English major.
Yeah. Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to tell like what life path is going to take you, but maybe not having you still carry over things from going to school. Right?
Yes. Critical thinking.
Yes, absolutely.
The ability to speak with people.
Yeah. Yep, which you're very good at. So yeah, that shows. Anything else to add to that?
I think you can also carry over job skills from one profession to another.
For sure.
So what I learned in the food and beverage industry, working with budgets and managing the company's money, I could relate to what I was being trained to do in the industrial product distribution company.
Yep.
Two completely different products, but the same principle.
Yes. Cool. Okay, next question. Describe other changes you've experienced since young adulthood, and they could be physical or mental. And I would say, since Evan is a former client of mine, we've worked out together for a pretty long time, I'd say let's go physical on this.
Physical is a big one. So I met you when I was 47,
Yep.
and it was at that time in my life I'm looking at myself and I'm seeing 50 getting closer,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking I need to get in better shape. So I started riding my bike, and I thought, oh man, I don't have the stamina I used to. So I was a smoker at the time, and I think the first thing I did was quit smoking. And then I thought, I really need help in the gym because I want to do more than just ride my bike. And I didn't know my way around the gym, and that's how I met, or when I met you, and you became my trainer. And since doing that, I've seen like huge changes in not only my appearance, but my stamina and my overall health. Quitting smoking was a huge thing, but getting in better shape and learning about the different muscle groups in my body and how to train them.
Right.
Improving my eating habits.
And do you feel like you're healthier today than you were back then?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And I also feel better now than I did back in my 30s and early 40s.
Right. Yeah, it's such a huge thing to do what you did, is discover it earlier, and you don't realize the benefits until you get older, or you learn the hard way and realize, man, I should have started taking care of my health earlier in my life, earlier in someone's life.
Right.
Yeah.
So also mentally, did you say?
You can touch on mental.
So mental is also another big thing I've learned that's really important in
Yeah.
terms of mental health. So I've always struggled with anxiety and overthinking, and I think that through talking with a therapist, it helps me work through learning why I have those behaviors
Yeah.
and maybe giving me some tools to counteract them.
Yeah.
So I think that mental health is equally important as physical health.
And I think back then, I mean, you could touch on this. Mental health, I mean, obviously people had mental issues, well-being issues decades ago.
Yeah.
But I feel like today they touch on, we talk about it more often.
I think there's less stigma around it.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that.
So that's why I always promote that in physical
Yeah.
fitness.
And we both know that they're attached. The
They
mental, they're attached. They're together.
100%.
They're not two separate
Right.
things. So when you're taking care of one, you are technically taking care of the other also.
Right.
So good. I like that. So last question is, looking back at your young adult life, what kind of advice would you give someone today that is in young adulthood and they're about to embark on this journey?
I would say it's never too late to start something new,
Yep.
regardless of what age you are, and to take your physical and mental health seriously
Yeah.
and do something every day that's positive, that's a positive reinforcement for both of those things.
Yep.
And there are a lot of people you can reach out to for help.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, even today, especially with younger people today, and I always talk about this with you, there's more resources
Yeah.
today. But maybe that's countered with, maybe there's more mental health issues today also.
Could be.
So, I just think it's a matter of young people finding the right guidance,
Yes.
right?
That was the case for me.
Yeah,
And that's where I began with finding you as my personal trainer,
right,
and then finding the right therapist to work with.
yeah. And that, and finding a therapist, when you say finding the right therapist, does that mean that you had to, was it a trial and error type of deal where you had to have a couple different therapists?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, because not all personalities gel with each other.
for sure. Yep,
And if you're not connecting with a therapist, it's really not beneficial.
right. Yes, I agree. And I like that. You have the, as a patient, for anything, therapist or the doctor, I mean, you have the power to, it's your autonomy. It's you make the decision on whether a doctor is right for you or a therapist is good for you. So it's good that you were aware of that. Because I think probably some people don't realize that, and they may just stick with a therapist for over and over, and it gets redundant and nothing's happening.
Right.
And maybe that's something you experienced with
I have,
at
yes.
some point with a therapist.
Mhm.
So, okay. So, I'm trying to recap. Do you feel like, how do I word this? Growth-wise, do you feel like you grew a lot? I mean, obviously you grow, but do you think there are certain aspects of your life that you excelled at, going from young adulthood to middle adulthood?
Yeah, I've seen huge growth in my physical health and my mental health
Yeah.
from late 40s until now in my early 60s.
Yeah.
And I think I'm still growing, but I noticed the most during that time period.
Right. Okay. So that's our interview today. I hope you guys all learned something from our conversation. I know I did. I'm always learning stuff from Evan. And so thank you for your time.
Bye.